So I did end up doing the playlist review yesterday, but you all know I have to do a review on the entire playground island as well. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys do know me at this point. I am pretty much on the side of really voicing my honest opinion on this stuff and really telling you guys what I actually think and not really trying to sugarcoat things. So first thing I gotta say though is I think the playground is a cool idea. I do think it's a pretty dope design. You will see me looking at it right now, kind of like an overhead view. To be honest, I thought it was a little bit bigger from the trailers and stuff like that when we did see it before. I thought the overall playground was bigger, but when jumping on it, it's definitely not that big of an island. I would say, like, don't get me wrong, it's not super tiny or terrible, but I kind of thought the overall island would be bigger than what it is. So, on the main part of it, which I am currently looking at in the background, is the NASCAR track. You guys will see that part there is fairly obvious. You have like the little tracks in the middle, the main loop of the NASCAR. Heading over to the left side though is where you will end up finding the crazy roads that go super high, some of them loop. You'll find other routes that have jumps and some different things, a figure eight there as well. And some kind of fun routes that you'd most likely recognize in something like a Hot Wheels or a crazy type of track, right? Now, I will say though, the overall design of this is honestly pretty dope. There's different things you can explore in different routes and kind of check different things out around it. So there's a lot of things you can explore, the routes and stuff on the tracks, or, maybe on the roads heading over to the main NASCAR track and doing loops over there. There's a good amount of things you probably can explore. But there is one thing I could not help but notice, guys, when looking at this entire thing. And you might end up noticing it as well, but I will probably pause this here and show you guys. All the main events here are basically on the NASCAR part. There is a total of 6 of these races here on the entire island. And one of the events I did end up noticing does go on part of the loop-de-loop area and some of the crazy roads over there. So at least one of the events does kind of capture those areas. You'll also end up noticing that there is one of the rival events, but that is not a race, so I do not even consider that to be part of it. My biggest thing though is the entire left part of the island though is basically empty. There is none of the other races over there that connect any of the, like, there's no figure eight race, for example, on that figure eight part. There's none of the other ones connecting the loops and the jumps, which I feel like they could easily have more events in the areas of this playground. Now, the reason why I want to say this, guys, I'm not out here trying to complain, but I do feel like having more events on this island would definitely make players probably want to enjoy it more and really jump in and experience this island even more because there's more things to do on it, right? A lot of players might end up driving around on it for a little bit, but let's be real. That will probably be fun for only so long, especially if there is nothing else to do. And I gotta admit, looking at this island initially, I am very surprised there's just nothing on the left part of it where all the loop-de-loops and different routes are, because they could easily have different races over here to fill in some of the areas. But with only the NASCAR playlist being in this entire thing, it pretty much only fills in that side. Now, could we have more of the events later on in the game? Probably, but we're most likely talking 4 to 6 months if they were to add other races to this entire playground. I am curious to know what y'all think about this though, because I've been driving around on the island for a little bit, really looking around, and I'm going to be 100% real when I say this. I don't really know how much time I will spend over on the island. I mean, you could probably do the entire NASCAR playlist, go over the loops, and most likely be done with the entire island in most likely an hour, man. I mean, there's only 6 races on it, with the entire other side basically having one race, which is the last race that you will see in the playlist, that goes over some of the loop-de-loops and stuff like that. So I do feel like players might end up looking at the island, or at least exploring some of it. I'm guessing a lot of people will probably spend a lot of time in the NASCAR track area racing and stuff like that, but even when looking at the NASCAR track, I still feel like some things in there were kind of a bit of an L to me. And let me explain why I think that is. We all do know this huge open playground area is made for it to be a playground to mess around in, right? Well, one thing I thought about with the entire NASCAR track thing, we all do know the physics and all that stuff is tied to the playlist itself, right? Well, why isn't the track, at least in free roam, having some of those features? Y'all know what I'm saying? Hear me out here. What if the track in free roam had the physics that you saw in the playlist, so you could jump in there with other people in your lobby, or even jump in there with a crew of some of your friends and jump into the track in free roam and experience what the playlist also offered, but in free roam? Wouldn't that be kind of dope, man? Imagine having the NASCAR physics in there. Maybe they can even have AI driving around. I don't know, dude. Maybe have it so you can activate AI to join you in it in free roam, and maybe you could get money or something doing laps, or maybe after a certain amount of laps you get money in XP and just drive in there as much as you want. Wouldn't that be kind of dope? And on top of all of that, have the tire wear, the fuel, and the damage model in there, having the pit and stuff when you're in the track, making it activate even in free roam. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? This sounds dope to me, bro. I would spend a lot of time over in the track area by itself if that was a thing. But without any of it, the loop-de-loop area doesn't really have much of anything going on. So you could go drive around, hit the boosters, and jump and go, woo, yay! But then what? You know what I'm saying? Then what? You could go to the track and maybe drive around, hit up some of the loop-de-loops. For me, though, it just feels kind of empty. And the way that they have been releasing different playlists and updates, I don't really ever see this playground being filled in because Maui is still empty. So that's like a big thing that I kind of think about. Is there a lot of cool routes and different roads in this? 100%. Which is also why I'm mentioning this, because they could easily add some races in there, bruh. There is so much room, but I just really don't know if that will ever end up happening. Also, speaking of that, there is a road that goes around the entire playground, by the way. It is a road that has NPC drivers, you know, a road that you'd see on other parts of the map. Why is there not a loop race around that could be lap focused, okay? Maybe 10 laps, I don't know. Have it so players can drive around the entire playground in that race, exploring that, but also having fun because the visuals of the overall design, you could see everything from that side road that goes around. There's tunnels and different things. It's a really cool atmosphere. And I'm looking at the entire road going, bro, this would be a dope place for races on top of everything else in here. And but there's nothing. And it's hard. Guys, I have to talk about this stuff because I can't be the only one thinking about it. The playground is really cool. It does have some really cool features to it. But we got to admit, though, it is also lacking, bro. Yes, the rival thing is on there. People might be like, well, with the rival thing, there's an extra race. But the rivals aren't even races. So a lot of people will not even bother doing those stunt things. I don't think people will care that much for them. We will have the other NASCAR races. But how many times can you do those if you want to use the NASCARs? That's why I feel like having the entire track in free roam, having the NASCAR features would have been so dope, and honestly, that was kind of a big miss. I think that would have been really dope to see that in free roam. That would have made players so dang hyped up and excited to go in there and just meet people, race with them, bring your friends in, bring a crew in. You could do all kinds of different streams and content ideas with that stuff of racing with people in there. It would have been crazy. But instead, though, a lot of it just seems to be empty. And I'm going to be real here and say I kind of think players will end up driving on the playground for like an hour or two and then most likely be ready to move on. That's just the feeling I'm getting from this. I got to be real with y'all. Oh, and also one thing I have to add on to this though is I'm sure people might be like, "Oh, look, Block's complaining about the entire playground." Here's the thing, guys. I think the overall design of it is honestly pretty dope, and I do like the flow of how it is set up. However, they really should focus on filling this in, because now I do really think when looking at it, it will probably never be properly filled in with events. Even though there's a ton of different open areas and empty areas around it, that could easily have races fill in some of the weird roads that float and all that. A track that goes around the entire thing. The figure eight race could be an event there. There could be other off-road things they could mess around with in some areas of this. Some of the loop-de-loops could have races in some different zones. There is a lot they could do with it. And at this point, I really don't know if we will ever see that, as parts of Maui are still empty with plenty of open areas for races. With as I have mentioned before, the entire playlist design does honestly limit so many of these things. And I kind of think when looking at the playground update, it really does show that, to be honest. Do let me know what y'all think in the comments below. I would probably guess a lot of players, a majority, would most likely agree with this and probably want the same thing. And speaking of the entire playground island, guys, there's one thing I wanted to add on to this. It is probably not a surprise at this point that many people were comparing the playground island to something like Hot Wheels that was in Forza. Well, looking at the playground island and getting on Forza Horizon 5, I will be doing a comparison of all the stuff that is on the Hot Wheels DLC in Forza Horizon 5 compared to the playground island in Motorfest. Do stay tuned for it because it is coming soon. And in that, I am planning to go over a comparison of the sizes of both the playground and the Hot Wheels DLC in Forza Horizon 5 and all the events on each of them, how they compare to each other, the skills you can do, like, you know, the skilled events like slaloms or speed traps and all that, different collectible items and different things about each playground compared to the DLC that's in Forza. because everyone keeps saying this is a Hot Wheels type of update. So you know what? Let's compare them and see how they really do stack up against each other.